At 21, my brother was handed the keys to a shiny BMW, while I was closing on my first home. During a backyard barbecue, he ridiculed my achievements, but Grandpa's sharp retort shut him down instantly. I'll always remember the mix of smoky barbecue sauce and the faint whiff of lawn clippings in the air. That's the moment I realized my family never truly saw me as part of the inner circle. It felt like an accident, a minor detail. My name's Daniel, and I'm 29 now. If you'd told me 7 years back that I'd own 2 properties, have a fully paid-off truck, and lead a thriving lawn care company with 15 employees, I'd have chuckled in disbelief. Not because I lacked ambition, I had plenty. But as a kid, I was constantly reminded I was a letdown, often through stinging quiet that hurt more than shouts. My little brother Lucas was the star of the show, and it wasn't subtle. If there was a picture on the fridge, it featured Lucas holding a trophy. Lucas's birthdays meant balloons and fancy cakes from the upscale patisserie. And if a young guy got a BMW with a giant bow at 18 for pulling off a B+ GPA, yep, that was Lucas. Me? I got a quick pat on the back for high school graduation and a what's next, from Dad. Heck, I even used up my last complimentary meal voucher recently. I wasn't slow. I just didn't match their mold. I skipped summers interning at law firms, Wall Street gigs, or tagging along with Dad at the office. I enjoyed hands-on stuff, fixing engines, trimming hedges, and sprucing up fences that they viewed as manual labor, beneath their status. But for me, it turned out to be a goldmine. I left home at 21. I started working for an old-timer named Tommy who ran a local yard service. He was gruff and chain-smoked, but he schooled me on everything, quoting jobs, spotting turf problems, and handling picky customers without blowing up. I scrimped every penny. We lived on ramen most nights, hustled Saturdays and Sundays. No one cared. No one checked in. Family only. Thought I was taking the high road. Really, I'd just been shrinking myself small enough to be trampled. I almost dialed Grandpa that night but stopped. He was pushing 85, he didn't need my drama. Except he always knew. The next morning his beat-up F-150 rolled onto the maple lot, kicking up dust, parking crooked beside my work truck. He climbed out holding 2 gas station coffees and that familiar half-grin. "Figured your stubborn ass wouldn't call," he said, handing me one. We stood in the cold wind, watching a skid steer rumble in the distance. He didn't pry. Just waited. So I unloaded the fraudulent credit app, the planted reviews, the BBB hit piece, the city complaint, the vanishing tenants, the whole campaign. When I finished he took a long sip, eyes on the horizon. "Your grandma used to say something," he began. I waited. Only a damn fool confuses quiet for surrender. He gave a dry chuckle. "You ain't no fool, dozer. You're patient. But patience costs extra when you forget there's a time to collect." I stayed quiet. "Want my 2 cents?" he asked. I nodded. "Quit playing checkers with a raccoon. No matter how smart your moves, that trash panda's gonna flip the board and piss on the pieces." I barked a laugh real, unexpected, and that sound alone loosened something in my chest more than the coffee ever could. Over the next 48 hours I went on offense. I scrubbed the site spotless, photographed every safety measure, refiled every document with bold highlights. I handwrote a letter to the bakery owners offering a free month's rent as goodwill, scheduled a live video walkthrough for the chiropractor, chased down every loose thread. Couldn't erase the delay overnight, but I could prove I wasn't rattled and I wasn't leaving. Then I armored up. Installed job site cameras, security plus timestamped proof, brought in a freelance forensics guy to trace review origins, switched every password, enabled 2-factor on business accounts, upgraded Old Virginia money, vineyards, horse farms, private jets disguised as family aircraft. Real wealth, not the flashy kind. Then, at the bottom, in Lucas's own slanted hand. Hoping this day brings everyone closure and a fresh start. Black tie formal. Kindly leave the work boots behind, no need to track soil across the gardens. I stared at the note for a full minute. Not rage. Not hurt. Just, finished. This wouldn't end unless I ended it. I'd never gone public with his sabotage. Never whispered to aunts or cousins about the fake complaints, the planted reviews, the city tip. I'd simply worked harder. But that restraint wasn't enough anymore. He was about to marry into serious money under the pretense that he was the golden, trustworthy son-in-law while I was still the grubby landscaper who didn't belong. So I decided, at his wedding, everyone would see exactly who he was. Not through shouting or drama, through undeniable evidence, delivered surgically. First call went to Chris, former lead developer at Lucas's failed startup. Sharp, quiet guy. They'd parted ugly, unpaid stock options, ghosted follow-ups. We'd crossed paths once at a friend's cookout. He'd casually remarked, "Lucas doesn't pay what he owes. He just rebrands and runs." He answered on the second ring. "Landscaping Daniel? What's good? Still got that thumb drive?" Long pause. "The email archive? Yeah." Another beat. "You going after him legally?" "Nope. Just making sure certain people know who they're marrying." Chris laughed softly. "Been waiting 2 years for someone to ask." He sent the zip file that afternoon, password protected, packed with exported mailboxes, PDFs, Slack exports, screenshots. Lucas bragging about faking user metrics, stiffing freelancers, mocking Olivia's dad as a gullible mark in custom loafers. Pure dynamite. But I didn't want my name on the delivery. Too easy to dismiss as sour grapes. So I called Rachel, my ex from 2 years back. Sharp PR strategist who specialized in. Reached out when Lucas needed help hauling furniture or dad wanted the irrigation fixed cause. "Hey, you're good with that stuff, right?" Fast forward a tad, I'm not dumping my whole bio here, but here's the gist. At 22, I snagged my first rundown house. I gutted and rebuilt it myself, sold it for a gain, rolled that into a 2-unit place, leased one side, and bunked in the other. No social media boasts, no holiday chit-chat about it. I stayed under the radar. That's how you roll when your wins make folks uncomfortable. My family pegged me as working class, not in a good way. More like, well, at least he's not behind bars. Meanwhile, Lucas sailed through Yale, then Stanford for his master's, landing at some startup that burned cash while touting innovation. When he got dad's business card at 21 with promises of inheriting the company, I just nodded politely. I was numb to it by then, but change crept in gradually. Okay, here we go. It kicked off at my parents' big June family grill-out. They spare no expense, caterers, pavilions, inviting folks from back in the Reagan days. I ditched the last two, blaming work trips and site visits. Really, I dreaded milling around while everyone fawned over Lucas's latest venture and eyed me like the hired help refilling the charcoal. But this year, Grandpa Bill twisted my arm. He's Mom's dad, old-fashioned, a bit rugged, and the sole family member who ever beamed with pride over me. He still dubs me Daniel the Bulldozer, even though I'm 5 feet 8 inches and wiry like a rail. He warned, "Skip this one, and I'll drag you over for a 6-hour golf saga." That guy once droned on for 12 minutes about a bunker, so I showed. I rolled up around noon, parked a block away to avoid blocking drives, and strolled in with a 6-pack of craft brews I figured Dad would dig. No one batted an eye. Lucas's BMW sat front and center on the grass like a trophy, tunes pumping from Dad's fancy Bluetooth setup. I found Grandpa manning the smoker, chatting with Uncle Mike, who was already buzzed and ranting about the economy like he coined the term. Grandpa bear-hugged me, eyed my build. "Been hauling boulders or just flexing?" he teased. I laughed it off. Bit of each. We shot the breeze. He asked about business, and when I mentioned nearing a deal for hotel grounds maintenance downtown, he nodded approvingly. "That's big leagues," he said. "Proud of you, bulldozer." That was the day's only genuine compliment. I floated through the afternoon, exchanging nods with relatives and dodging deep talks. I kept Mom on jobs, homes, anything, 'cause I knew the drill. If it wasn't stocks or inheritances, they zoned out. Fine by me, I wasn't there to wow. But then, by the ice chest, some teen cousins were yakking. One, maybe 16, piped up, "Saw your cruise trucks at that old service station on Elm. You guys revamping that into a green space? Innocent question, no shade. I grinned. Nah, not municipal. Prepping for a mini strip mall, cafe, bakery, offices. Private gig. His jaw dropped. You own it? I paused. Hadn't meant to spill. I usually dodged, but his chill vibe prompted truth. Yeah, I said. Snapped it up last month. My second spot, actually. And boom, the vibe shifted. Lucas had snuck up behind, unnoticed, now looming with a beer, wearing that snide grin he pulls for cheap shots. You own 2 places, he boomed, heads turning. Since when? I pivoted calmly, kept it quiet. Couple years. He barked a laugh. You, Daniel the yard jockey? Someone by the smoker snickered. Others hushed. Grandpa glanced over subtly. I started to reply, but Lucas steamrolled. Whoa. Guess even a busted watch is right twice daily. I forced a smile. You're not wrong. I just built my own watch. He scowled. What, now you're a property tycoon? Couple shacks and some weed whackers make you Rockefeller? Never claimed that, I said. But it's paying off. Mom swooped in then, sensing the brew. Lucas honey, grabbed that Chardonnay from the fridge, she cooed, touching his sleeve. But he stood firm, glaring. You always act superior, he snapped. Like ditching early makes you hot stuff. Think your crappy rentals and beater truck mean you've arrived. I don't think I'm above anyone, I replied evenly. I stopped chasing approval. He leaned in. You think Dad's impressed? I stayed silent, and that's when it erupted. Dad hurled his glass at the ground, not at me, but shattering it on a patio stone. Mom yelped, stepped away. Heads whipped around. Ants froze. A toddler wailed. And, true to form, Mom burst into tears too. I can't believe this at my party, she wailed. Why can't you two just cheer each other on? Lucas ignored her. Grandpa ambled up, cane in hand, eyed Lucas, me, then Lucas again, and chuckled, a raspy wheeze slicing the air like a blade. I held still. He said it. The line that hushed Mom's sobs, drained Lucas's color, and silenced the yard. Something I'll tease you with till you're set for the rest. Grandpa steadied his cane, locked eyes on Lucas with that weighted calm only seniors master. Kid, if Daniel's the failure, what the hell does that make you? You could have heard a fly buzz into the coleslaw. Lucas blinked, stunned. Mom's mouth hung open, Breeze paused. Grandpa didn't expand, just nodded at me like he'd saved that zinger for ages, then shuffled back to the smoker, griping to Uncle Mike about charred brisket. Quiet didn't linger, Lucas bolted inside, grumbling. Mom trailed, wine sloshing, shooting me a look like I'd scripted the mess. Party cranked back up, laughs forced, volume upped. Dad said zilch, loitered by the keg, shaking his head like it was petty drama. His classic, stay aloof. Let Mom handle emotions, Lucas shine, him oversee. I hung another hour, chatted Grandpa, no scene recap. We discussed veggies, and as I split, he slipped me a scrap with a contact. His buddy in commercial leasing. Drop my name, he said. He'll hook you up fair. I thanked him, slipped out low-key. That. Reputation fires. We'd split amicably, schedules didn't align. Daniel, she answered cautiously. Everything okay? Need a big favor. I'll owe you forever. Her voice shifted to business mode. Go. I laid out only the facts, the sabotage timeline, the email dump, the upcoming wedding, the polished facade Lucas was selling to a wealthy family. No childhood sob story, just evidence. She listened in silence. Then, okay. Here's how we play it clean. We spent 3 hours curating, time-stamped emails, scanned bad checks, Slack threads joking about renting actors in suits to impress Olivia's parents, an Excel file showing inflated pitch numbers. We built a concise, horrifying dossier, professional, irrefutable. We created a burner Gmail, ceremonyguest2025@gmail.com. Timed the send for 5:50 p.m. Friday, 10 minutes before the rehearsal dinner toast. Subject line, before you raise a glass to the groom. Rachel had a loose connection on the Langston wedding staff. Confirmed timing. The email would land like a quiet grenade. But I wasn't stopping at disruption. I wanted long-term accountability. So I compiled my own paper trail, incident report filed with the city about the fraudulent complaint, IP traces linking fake reviews to Lucas's building, Rachel's Google contact helped, dated screenshots, everything timestamped. No lawsuit yet, just loaded magazines in reserve. Then I did what I should have done years earlier. Accepted Mom's lunch invite, said I'd come only if we could talk straight, no dodging. They agreed. We sat on their back deck. Mom poured sweet tea, Dad grilled burgers. 8 minutes of heavy quiet before I spoke. I know what Lucas has been doing to me. Dad's spatula froze mid-flip. What are you talking about? I held his gaze. Fake credit apps, planted reviews, BBB complaints, the city tip-off. I have proof. And I'm finished acting like it didn't happen. Mom set her glass down carefully. Why would he? Because I succeeded without his help. Because I. Bookkeeping software. No more reacting. Only building thicker walls. 7 days later the city emailed, complaint dismissed, file closed. Bakery signed the next morning. Chiropractor followed 48 hours after. The design firm never came back, I didn't chase them. Momentum crept back. One crisp morning I was unloading mulch bags when I noticed a black Lexus idling across the street, windows blacked out, engine purring, sitting motionless for almost 10 minutes before gliding away. I recognized the plates. Lucas's car. I didn't wave. Just kept stacking. But something fundamental had shifted. The anger was gone. In its place was calm certainty. I was finished waiting for the next knife. Finished defending. Finished letting people who'd never swung a hammer tell me my value. I wasn't going to merely survive this. I was going to outlast it, not for revenge, but because every brick, every signed lease, every blade of sod I'd laid had been earned through sweat, not gifted, not borrowed, not inherited. I was through saying sorry for existing on my own terms. I didn't know Lucas's next move, but I sensed it coming. It arrived in a heavy cream envelope sealed with gold wax, like we were suddenly European aristocracy. The front read Mr. Daniel Foster in elegant script. Return address, Lucas's overpriced downtown loft, Dad co-signed, naturally great city views if you love staring at a parking structure. I let the envelope sit on the kitchen counter for 36 hours. Not fear, just curiosity. Would it be a fake truce? A perfunctory olive branch? Or would he lace the invitation with one last barb? Wednesday morning, black coffee in hand, I slit the seal. Inside, heavy cardstock tied with navy satin ribbon, calligraphy so perfect it looked machine-printed. Mr. and Mrs. Langston request the honor of your presence at the marriage of their daughter Olivia Grace to Lucas James Foster, Saturday, September 10th, at the Langston Estate, Riverbend Hills. Olivia's people were. Stopped auditioning for the failure role. Because my wins make him feel small. Dad stared into the flames. I pulled a slim folder from my bag, printed, tabbed, chronological. Handed it to Mom. She flipped pages slowly, traced emails, IP logs, screenshots. Her whisper came out broken, "Oh, honey." Dad finally muttered, "He's your brother." "No," I said evenly. "He's a coward wearing cufflinks." Neither argued. I left the folder on the table and walked out. I never said I'd torpedo the wedding. Didn't have to. They felt the storm coming. 20 minutes after the scheduled send time, my phone rang. Grandpa's name on the screen. "Boy," he said, voice low and steady, "get your ass over here right now. Shit just hit the fan." I drove faster than I should have. Grandpa didn't sound panicked, just certain. When I pulled up he was waiting on his front porch, cane planted, eyes sharp. He didn't waste words. They opened the email at the rehearsal dinner. Olivia's father read it out loud to the whole table. Lucas tried to laugh it off, called it a jealous prank. Olivia's mom started crying. Her dad stood up, looked Lucas dead in the eye, and said, "We need to talk. Alone. Now." Grandpa paused, took a slow breath. "Wedding's off. Postponed indefinitely. Langston's hired their own investigator this morning. Lucas is lawyering up, but the emails are real. They're not going away." I stood there in the driveway, wind cutting through my jacket, feeling nothing dramatic. No triumph rush. Just quiet relief, like a knot that had been twisted for years had finally loosened. Grandpa clapped a hand on my shoulder. "You didn't light the match, son. He handed you the gasoline years ago." A few weeks later, the Langstons quietly settled with a handful of Lucas's old contractors he'd stiffed, small checks, NDAs. Olivia's family cut contact completely. Lucas moved back in with mom and dad for a while, tail between his legs. He never apologized to me. Never had to. The silence said enough. What this is about. Anonymous tip. Alleged permit violations, unsafe material storage, possible zoning conflicts. Routine to verify. I sat in the cab for a solid minute after the call ended, forcing slow breaths. My books were clean, every inspection, every certificate current, but the handwriting was unmistakable. Lucas. No fingerprints, just enough vague smoke to choke progress. That afternoon I sat in a windowless municipal office across from a no-nonsense clerk in a cardigan. I laid out the full stack, approved site plans, stamped engineering reports, photos of proper equipment staging, insurance binders. She scanned everything, eyebrows gradually relaxing. "Everything appears in order, Mr. Foster. We'll likely administratively close this with no further action." But the damage was already rolling. My general contractor called the next morning to pull his crew, said the bakery's ownership wanted a contingency clause inserted. The chiropractor's attorney demanded we renegotiate timelines. The design firm simply went radio silent. Their insurer wouldn't touch the job until the city issued a formal clearance letter, which could take weeks. Sleep became shallow that week. I replayed every decision since I first bought that foreclosure, wondering if I'd been delusional to think I could scale, if maybe my family had been right all along, that hands-on work was my ceiling, that ambition beyond mowing lawns was hubris. One evening at Home Depot, loading fittings for a broken mower deck, my knees buckled for a second. I gripped a rack of conduit to steady myself and just stood there, chest heaving, staring at orange price tags. It wasn't the financial hit, I could weather that. It was the betrayal. My own brother, handed every advantage on a silver platter, couldn't tolerate me succeeding on my own terms. Shame crept in, not for what I'd accomplished, but for how long I'd let their narrative define me. Every time I bit my tongue, every holiday I smiled through the digs. Evening, Lucas dropped a shady Insta post, "Weird how wolves hide in work shirts." Vague caption, obvious jab. I brushed it off, had a supplier meetup dawn, no time for his fits. Wish I could claim closure, that tension's faded, but Lucas simmers and schemes. He craves victory, even in solo races. Weeks later, surprise call. "Mr. Daniel Foster?" Polite, clipped voice. "Karen from Riverside Bank. Confirming your small business credit line approval, but we flagged employment verification snags." I stiffened. "I didn't apply." Pause. "Aren't you with Foster Yard Pros LLC?" Heart raced. "My firm, yeah. But no recent apps." "Who filed?" Privacy blocked details, but it had my details spot on, name, address, tax ID. "Staff didn't know my home base, those weren't online." I called it fraud, she noted and bumped it up. Call over, but puzzle pieces clicked. That grill out. Left my work cell on the table 8 minutes grabbing food, basic PIN. Notes app held quick refs, tax ID, contacts. Meant to lock it, slacked. Stupid. And Lucas knew the PIN, old house number, he'd ribbed me once. Couldn't prove then, Figured the botched loan was a petty jab to shake me, last resort after verbal flops. Wrong. That autumn, bid on a uni campus job, grounds for 2 halls in quad. Prepped hard, costs, refs, felt solid. Week before award, another ring. Daniel, quick heads up on odd flags, said Greg, facilities lead. Admin spotted gripes about your outfit, wanted to loop you before jumping. Gripes? Yeah, reviews, emails, BBB post. Claimed crew wrecked stuff, no-shows, etc. Chills. Bogus. Didn't think so, Greg said. But protocol. I dug in post-call. Fresh fakes, anon-Google rants. One-sided a site I'd never touched, BBB mess was sloppy grammar, my biz deets, fake tale just believable. Next 3 days, disputes, client checks, ref blasts. Kept quiet even from grandpa, lost the gig to a big chain. Doubled down on work, thickened the family barrier. Lucas wasn't just jealous, he aimed to torpedo me. No more pure defense. Holiday season, smaller fam bash, immediate kin, few pals. Mom begged attendance. For your brother, she said. Family time, no fights. I went, short stay promised. Showed with cookie box, fake grin. Lucas answered, silent scan like wrong delivery. Inside, dad sipping bourbon by fire, mom plating snacks. Room tense, primed for sparks. Meal awkward but polite, Lucas hyped a freelance hustle, mom probed my love life, I kept brief, skipped biz/homes. Ignored my new ride parked distant, till Lucas's fiancée, Olivia, chimed. Newbie, sweet, bluntly honest. Heard you snagged properties, Daniel, that's killer. Lucas said your yard biz is killing it, love when folks build from scratch. I eyed Lucas, he shot her daggers like she'd leaked secrets. Just saying, she backpedaled, cool you both thrive. Mom pivoted topics. Dad coughed. Lucas bailed table soon after, post-dessert, I grabbed jacket, announced exit. Porch bound, Lucas tailed, door slamming. Think you're slick? Low hiss. I turned deliberate. What now? You're trying to embarrass me. Think Olivia's impressed, forgetting you're the punchline? No bite back. You figure scraping together rentals and clipping exec lawns makes you my peer? Nah, I said. I don't think we're peers. He smirked. Exactly. I stepped forward until we were almost toe-to-toe. Actually, I said quietly, I passed you a long time ago. You were just too busy staring at your reflection to see it. His face flushed crimson, jaw locked tight, but I was already turning, heading down the porch steps toward my truck. That freezing December night crystallized it for me, this wasn't simple jealousy. Lucas wasn't just irritated that I'd built something worthwhile. He was livid that I'd done it completely outside his orbit, without his permission, without his approval, without needing him at all. And that realization lit the fuse for what came next. He pushed Mom to tears, forced Dad to finally pick a side, and made Grandpa reach for the phone and deliver 5 words that still echo in my head. Things went quiet for a few weeks after the Christmas porch showdown. For the first time in years I felt a sliver of breathing room, no surprise calls from banks, no phantom bad reviews popping up, no mysterious delays from suppliers. I welcomed the silence. Winter is always the slowest season anyway, so I used the downtime to strategize. My commercial parcel, the future mini retail strip, was progressing nicely toward phase 2. Tenant fit-outs were lined up, a family-owned bakery had inked the lease, a sports medicine chiropractor was on board, and a boutique graphic design firm had committed. I kept the excitement private. When people have spent years betting against you, real wins feel better when they're whispered. One gray February afternoon I pulled into the gravel lot on Maple, still more dirt than destination, but the skeleton of the buildings was starting to rise when an unfamiliar number lit up my screen. I almost let it go to voicemail, but with several bids floating, I answered. Mr. Foster? This is Sergeant Reyes, City Building and Compliance Division. We've got a report concerning your site at 1225 Maple. Are you free to stop by City Hall this afternoon? My gut twisted. I can make it. Mind telling me? Plaza opened on time that fall. The bakery's grand opening had a line around the block. The chiropractor sent me a thank you note with his first month's rent already paid. I hired 2 more guys, bought a 3rd truck, paid off the last chunk of my first house. Grandpa still calls me Dozer. Still tells anyone who'll listen that I'm the one who turned dirt into something lasting. And Lucas? Last I heard he was working some entry-level analyst gig downtown, nothing flashy, no corner office, no promises of taking over anything. He doesn't post cryptic Instagram stories anymore. Sometimes I drive past the old family house, see the BMW still parked in the driveway like a relic. I don't stop. I don't need to. I built my own road. And I'm still driving.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you never miss a twist. Stay tuned to Reddit Tales Times for your daily dose of drama, laughs, and unbelievable stories.